What I found out now is they got these reads and everything like that. In China, we only go through in what's called safe navigation. You go through with your radars off, no fire control solutions, like a good little boy. Just kind of go, and you're basically asking their permission to go. The South
China, I was unaware.
The South China, they consider when they lost in the international court, China considers the South China Sea to be an internal sea to China.
I know.
The
nine-dotted line of 1949
the nine-dotted line
is a joke.
They think it's a territorial sea.
I know.
They are not prepared. The first thing they'll tell you, that the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of China is not to be questioned. Not to be questioned. And they consider that nine-dot line, the more people put it into documents, the more people put it on TV shows, the more people that re-infer that meme they want, because they believe that that's reality.
Yeah.
You ask me what's going to happen? The South China Sea, I said on my radio show 5 years ago, we're being a shooting war. The South China Sea, the situation in Qatar and the Persian Gulf and the South China Sea are the two greatest hotspots in the world for a global conflict to start, okay? Yeah. Not Korea. Korea is a vassal state of China. The whole Korean thing is nothing but a Chinese drama, okay? And President Trump's doing an amazing job on it. The South China Sea is a flashpoint, and you saw the other night, as a former naval officer, I'm telling you, those two ships, you had an American, the USS
50
Decatur,
feet apart.
The USS Decatur was on patrol. Yeah. And you basically had a Chinese destroyer come up and play chicken with it. 50 feet apart. If those two ships had hit,
what would have happened?
First off, 200 or 300 sailors would have died. Okay? Absolutely. If those two ships had hit at the speeds that they were going, the relative speeds they were going, we would have had a catastrophe. Okay, now I don't know what could have happened to the weapons or what could have happened to the fuel, but I'm telling you, at the speeds, what the Chinese did was reckless. And that was a challenge to us. Remember, what the Decatur did was go 12 miles from one of these reefs, okay? Now, what the Chinese say is within 15 miles is their territorial water. They said it was a violation of their sovereign territory for the United States Navy to come 12 miles off a reef that they built into the South China Sea. My recommendation is I think the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, who to me has been very even-handed with China and really, tried to build a relationship. I think you ought to give the Chinese 72 hours to take every radar, every offensive thing on military, all the jets, everything out of the runways, everything off the islands. You get 72 hours to take it all off. And on the 72nd hour and 1 minute, the United States Navy is going to go in there and take it off for them. And then I think they ought to take those reefs and they ought to dismount them and turn them back into international waters. They say the United States is provocative by putting the United States Navy back into the South China Sea to keep the sea lanes open. I happen to believe where this relationship is going and the lack of a real response the Chinese are going to have, that they're going to try to do something provocative in the South China Sea to try to initiate a response. And I think the president ought to be proactive on this. I think you ought to tell him you get 72 hours. If you don't take it off, we're going to take it off for you. And then dare them to stop the United States Navy from going into it.
Wait, you're saying go to a kinetic conflict in 72 hours in a minute?
I didn't say go to a kinetic conflict. What I said was
if we go to try to take this off, they're not going to let that happen.
Well, the international courts ruled that it was inappropriate for him to be there. Why don't we enforce that? The party at Davos, when she came and gave that great speech at Davos, they all jumped up about. They failed to say, you just mentioned, they looked the people of the United States in the eye and lied to them from the Rose Garden in 2015 with the President of the United States right next to them. Okay?
Yeah. And no one called them on it.
And never called them on it. And then you saw when the international courts came and said, hey, this is totally unacceptable. There's no argument for it. It's got to be undone. They just sat there. What they've sat there and said, hey, this is our territorial sea. Now, I realize people saying, Bannon, what kind of crazy whack job are you? It's somewhere and we don't even know where it is in the South China Sea. We're going to go to war. People have to understand the global economy, and I'm a nationalist, okay? But the health of the American economy is based on trade. Populists and economic nationalists are not anti-trade. They're anti this radical concept of free trade when you're trading with a totalitarian mercantilist society.
Right.
What Trump wants and what he said from day one is fair trade and reciprocity. Okay, reciprocity. And I think now we're going to get down to it with China. China's going to have to understand that Donald Trump is never going to back down on this.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a fair man. Okay, he's a decent man. He's tried to work with them. But the days of the United States being pushed around with this are over.
Well, let me ask you a provocative question then. If we were to go,
how we get any more provocative? I said we're going to war in the South China Sea.
It's just the derivative of that. If we're just going even more.
Along here,
I'm actually just going the other. It's equally as provocative.
Okay.
What if we were to just take our 7th Fleet and go home?
Here's the thing: is that people have to remember. I think it's very important for people to remember that the United States is a Pacific power.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole development of this country, the Transcontinental Railroad, the whole West Coast, we are inextricably linked to the health of Asia's economy.
Well, Article 5 protections of Japan would be a real issue, but
Yes. No, but
I say that because if we were to have to go to, let's say we were to get to the point where we either had to go to war or had to come home.
Coming home is not an option.
Not an option.
Not an option. The world would be would get to be an incredibly dark and dangerous place. You could have appeasement there. You could have a Munich, right? You could have people say, hey, let's just pull out. They built the islands. They're a rising naval power. We don't want to fight. We don't want to. And look, listen, one of the cores about Trump's, it is non-interventionist. However, what America First stands for, national security, is where it's in the vital national security interest of the United States. It'll be in the vital national security interest of our local partners. That's what America First means. Trump is not going around the world looking for fights. He's trying to calm things down with Russia. He's trying to calm things down in Syria. He's trying to find a solution in Afghanistan. He's trying to